celebrate this fantastic Flyers team.
Well, hi, folks. I think we're live.
There we are.
I'm pretty sure we're live. I haven't done a lot
right.
of live streaming. Yeah, I see the eyeball. I see all that. So hooray. And hey, happy Friday. We've made it to the weekend. How we all doing? Before I get into the full thing, I'm going to do our ad read from our lovely sponsors, and then we can get into some high-quality hockey talk right there, folks. So
hell yeah.
Before we get into it, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball to NHL and UFC, BetOnline is your number one sports betting source for the new year. From touchdowns, three-pointers, and hat tricks, BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. So, yeah, hey. Welcome to Flyperbole Happy Hour. Ryan Quigley not here yet. He will be here shortly, wrapping some stuff up. But guess what? I got some good company from our friends over at the BSH Pod. We got Joe DiMarini, Italian Joe. We got Ryan Gilbert, Gilbs himself, the tallest man I know. Well, you're up there with, I have a friend from Twitter, Jeff, who's very tall as well. And yeah, so I'm going to give you guys a topic real quick to get into.
Well, before we do that, let's have a cheers. Let's have a toast.
Yeah, let's do a cheers. First, what are we all drinking before we do a cheers? Because I've got Tin Hoagie from Human Robot going here, a nice light lager.
Classic. That's a classic. I'm drinking a Bijou. It's the first time I've made it. I was going to make something called a tailspin, which is very fitting for the Flyers right now. But then I remembered that I had this recipe saved and decided to give it a try. So, yeah.
Excellent.
I have a Miller High Life here, the champagne of beers to celebrate this.
The champagne of beers. There you go. So
before we get into the Flyers,
let's cheers. Let's do it.
Oh yes, cheers.
Cheers. Yes.
Sláinte.
I have a question. Miller Lite, Bud Light, Coors Light, Michelob Ultra.
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
Just cycle through. Miller. I guess
I don't want to offend sponsors and other shows I may appear on, but I'm not a big fan of one of those beers you mentioned.
Fair.
That might tie into that if we go from there.
Fair.
But
I'm a Miller Lite
guy. The other
ones,
you had Miller.
Bud
Miller's
Light.
okay. I'll down a Miller if I'm at a tailgate or something. Miller's my go-to guest beer, where I just keep a number of beers in my beer fridge for guests that come over, so they don't have to feel bad about taking my craft beers. Nice. So Miller's my go-to guest beer. Michelob is like as close to drinking water as you can get in a beer experience.
Yeah, I'm Miller Lite, top of the pile there. Miller through and through.
There you go.
I'm surprised you didn't include a PBR on that list, or is PBR just a level above of that?
And this is Philadelphia, so you would be remiss for not mentioning the citywide special beer right there.
That's true. I dropped the ball here, but it's got to be a pounder or a tall boy or whatever you guys refer to them as. The
tall boy is the Philadelphia
tall boy.
Yeah.
Nomenclature there. Yeah,
but whatever. The Peeber, the Pabst, the Peebs. Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk hockey.
Let's talk. Well, okay. So first, I'm just going to put the link out on Blue Sky over here, and let's do that.
Yeah, skeet that.
I'm not used to doing that. This is like a whole new world to me. I'm used to just putting it out there, and then guess what? It's ready later. Cool. The world of live streaming. Okay. Well, now I have to tell Quigley. Okay, the link is in the Slack.
We're doing it live.
We're doing it live. It's nice and I heard you like it extra sloppy. And I'm going to put it on the gram. And
I just realized the title is Cold Drinks in a Hot Stove.
Yeah. Well, because we have some interesting news that we can talk about today. Like, I was actually very pleased with the timing of this pod as far as like Flyers news goes, because Elliot Friedman had in his 32 thoughts today, he had some very interesting Flyers thoughts. So I'm very excited to get into that. Let me get the show notes up real quick, and let me put out a quick link on the gram, and then I am good to get into it. I also had one thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, there's Ryan Quigley. There's the Quigster. Let's add him to the stage. Ryan Quigley, welcome to the happy hour. How you doing, my guy?
Oh, it is happy hour, folks. It is happy hour. I just got out of a meeting on a Friday that ended at 5:15.
Nice.
So
terrible.
It was a 4-hour meeting. But you know what? I'm out of it. I feel better. And I'm ready to reward myself by talking about the Philadelphia Flyers.
First though, what are you drinking for happy hour?
I literally have a bottle of water. So yeah. So I'm a social drinker. And like, I guess this is.
Are we not social?
This is social.
This is social as it gets. This is COVID social, at least.
But like, for some reason, I just don't like get alcohol and like bring it into the place that I live at the time. So like, I just like, I don't know. It's weird. But
I'm literally recording in front of my bar.
Huh?
I'm literally recording in front of my bar.
I love that. I love that for you. I wish I had like desire to like.
Well, I think it's probably healthy that you don't have a desire to be drinking constantly.
I mean, it might be, but
it's dry January.
So.
It's dry January.
Yeah. Well, I'm not practicing dry January.
This is perhaps my favorite addition in the bar right now. Is
baby,
the Bird Gang bourbon over here.
That's a pretty bottle.
It's a very pretty bottle. It's a pretty good whiskey, but the bottle's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's even got the.
You got to do a shot of that on
wings
Sunday.
on the top.
Oh, cool.
If they win, I will do a shot.
Oh, no.
For good luck, you have to take a shot.
Oh, I'm not taking it. This is a victory bottle right here.
No,
this is not,
it's not. You gotta do it.
No.
Before every game, you gotta do it until they lose.
I mean, granted, it is the Eagles. Like you need it for sure.
Good.
I was going to say, take a shot every time they pass instead of run, or vice versa, and you get mad about it.
Well, I will say they've been a little better about that this season, thanks to one Mr. Saquon Barkley. But so the first thing I wanted to get into today, before we get into the actual hockey talk, is something came across my desk earlier today that is very much in the Flyperbole / Steve Jaco wheelhouse right here. And it's the convergence of comic books and gritty. And I was very surprised by this. Emily sent me a link earlier today. And let me present real quick so I can show all of you this atrocity that has come across my screen. And the Marvel comic Venom had a recent reboot. And in Venom #2, he fought a...
Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah, big spoiler. Yeah. He fought a gritty villain?
That's here? Dr. Evil Gritty.
Who's called
Dr.
He's called Stuff.
Is that Andy Reid like as his sidekick there?
That sure looks like an Andy Reid. Yeah. That sure looks like Gritty and Andy Reid.
Is he wearing a UK hat?
Yeah,
he sure is, and he's called the Tosser.
Oh, I bet he is.
It's a Union Jack. Yeah.
There's so much weird stuff going on here. The fact that it's like a Gritty knockoff
he's the whole John.
He's wearing like a suit jacket and a Philly shirt. He's carrying 2 cheesesteaks. At one point, Venom has a cheesesteak thrown at him and says, "Is that a cheesesteak?" And then the Gritty character says, "It's a hoagie, go Birds." That's clearly a cheesesteak.
That's a cheesesteak. That's a cheesesteak.
There's a miscommunication somewhere.
Wait.
A cheesesteak.
You need to read the Gritty dialogue in that panel above.
Okay, so the Gritty dialogue is, "Yar, Chuck Stuff's gonna prove to you guys he's the whole John. I'm from Philly." And then the Andy Reid guy, which I'm gonna attempt to read in an Andy Reid English voice here, is, "And I'm the only bum and tosser. Ain't I get you?"
Tom, Andy Reid.
It looks like Andy Reid.
Well, no. Like that, your Andy Reid impression. That's your Andy Reid.
That's my Andy Reid British impression.
Oh, British impression. Okay.
No, the regular Andy Reid impression, which you've heard before, is "Time's yours."
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, he's much.
But
more
English Andy Reid's like, "I gotta do a better job. Time's yours."
Yeah.
In Britain, he's known as Andrew, not Andy.
Oh, you're right. He is Andrew Reid, who is very bad at time management. And his cholesterol is very high.
That's just an Eagles Andy Reid thing. Like, I haven't watched the Chiefs enough to know if he's like, gotten past his time management issues.
It doesn't matter. He ain't here.
Wait a minute,
Super Bowls, so
you guys,
doing fine.
He's throwing a meat sandwich, and he looks like Andy Reid. Is that Meat Reid?
Ooh, it might be Meat Reed.
Meat Reed.
The tosser might be
onto
Meat
something here,
Reed.
Joe.
We've cracked the code here.
Oh, that's the secret identity.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay.
Oh man. So yeah, this was utterly bizarre. And I just had to share this with everybody. It was just too weird to not talk about. And I like the writer of this comic, Al Ewing, but you got to do a better job at the Philly stuff here, Al. Come on.
Got to do a better job.
Got to do a better job. Got to do a better job, you tosser. But hey, getting back to the Philadelphia Flyers here. There's actually a shocking amount to talk about today. A shocking amount. And do we want to just get into the talk and then field questions? That sound good? If there are any questions.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's here yet. So yeah, we can wait for questions. And then
yeah. So I will get into the Discord and ask some questions or see if anybody has any questions. I'll also put it on Blue Sky and see if anybody wants any questions there. And that's the extent I'm willing to do. I think we have plenty to talk about to fill an hour, regardless of if there are questions or not.
Oh yeah.
Especially because there are 4 of us today, folks. There's 4 of us. We've got a little crossover app going, which is very fun. So with 4 people, I think there's going to be lots of time to get our opinions in there.
Any watchers of BoJack Horseman here?
Is this a
crossover episode?
Oh, that's what you're going for.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah. Is this a crossover
I thought you were just
episode?
talking about being depressed as a Flyers fan because BoJack Horseman is eternally about depression.
I mean, you put a
That's the
brown
most
paper
depressing
tag on
show
your
I think
head.
I've ever watched.
Oh yeah. No, I watched it straight through once and that was enough. I don't think it needs a second. Season 4 through 6. Nah, you don't need to see that again.
Never again. It's so sad. It's way more sad than a show about an animated horse basically based off the life of Bob Saget being on Full House should be.
True.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
All right.
Rest in peace. Hey, a Philly guy right there. Bob Saget, Temple guy too.
My brother,
let's go.
Like freshman or sophomore year, he was in one of the quad dorms and he had basically a 5.5 foot tall Bob Saget head, like a cardboard Bob Saget head. And he put it in the window pane of his like quad dorm. And like when people would find out, they'd be like, "Oh, you're the guy with the Bob Saget head in the window." So I didn't know he was a Temple alum. Now that makes a lot more sense.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I just
legend
know
right there.
Guy. Like when I was younger, me and my friends would just always be just yelling Bob Saget because of Tourette's guy. And I still kind of do it sometimes. So yeah, that's
Bob Saget.
I love Bob Saget, and like he was very, very funny, rip. But honestly, the way I know him most is, I mean, obviously Full House, but like aside from Full House is Tourette's guy. So
for me, it was America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were
hosting
going
That
it.
too.
Yeah,
That too.
that's what
Yeah.
I knew him from.
Yeah, I did.
I always think of him from Half Baked also, because Half Baked
That's
is
good. Yeah.
which by the way has the greatest TV edit of all time, which is well, in the film, I'm just gonna say it, folks, because this is Flyperbole and we just say stuff. In the film, he gets up and he says, "Have you ever sucked dick for coke?" And then in the TV edit, he goes, "Have you ever sucked feet for coke?" Which is like kind of funnier, to be honest. It's
So the guy in the Firefest documentary was just quoting Half Baked. I would have sucked some cock for a bottle of water or whatever that joke.
I mean, I think they're just going for it.
Yeah, he was just going.
I think they're just going just a tad homophobic there, but whatever.
Yeah.
But the Bob Saget line was always funny.
Firefest.
It was Firefest, which it was a different time when you're getting a white bread cheese sandwich from Steven Starr?
Correct.
Noted Philadelphia restaurateur Steven Starr with his cheese sandwich that they were giving out. I don't think he was involved, guys. I don't think
not to be confused with Steven Singer.
No, who is hated.
We hate,
loathed Steven Singer. But yeah, I think let's get into the Flyers talk. So Elliot Friedman came out today on 32 Thoughts. This is hot out of the hot takery, fresh out of the hot takery today. And Friedman was doing his sometimes Friedman comes out and flat out says, this is a rumor. This is a thing that's happening. And today was kind of his, in one regard, you could kind of say he was manifesting it, but in another regard, you could say he does this thing where he's like, well, this is the thing that maybe could happen. Who knows? Who's to say? And that was what he did today when he's talking about John Gibson from the Anaheim Ducks, who, yeah, I was a little surprised by this. So Friedman mentioned Carolina initially as the primary suitor, because that makes a lot of sense given the injury with Frederick Anderson and everything. And they've had some issues there, and that's also a competitive team, right? That's a team that could use a guy like Gibson, who is 31 years old. Like, he's not a spring chicken. He's been around a while. And he was basically saying they need to stop flirting and get to the next stage or move on, which is a really nice way of saying shit or get off the pot. Yeah. But then he kind of mentions the Flyers as a potential option. The Flyers play the Ducks this weekend. They just had their big trade with Gauthier and Drysdale last year. So there is a history there. There's a relationship. And I'm wondering how much smoke there is to this fire. You know, like, is there a fire here, or is this just a little bit of smoke setting off the smoke alarm?
That seems like an interesting move for this Flyers team right now. Like, because, you know, you can say what you want. It still feels like they're in a bit of a rebuild here, and they're still trying to find out things about their guys. So they're still trying to find out about Alexei Kolosov. They're still trying to find out about Ivan Fedotov. They're still trying to find out about Sam Ersson. And so, you know, when it comes to goalies, I feel like it would feel weird to give up a lot of I don't know how much it would take to get John Gibson, but I feel like it would take like a non-insignificant amount to get him from Anaheim. And that feels weird given the team right now. Like, you know, you could argue, well, they are competing for a playoff spot, but like, they're not a playoff team. I think we can agree on that. And it just feels like a weird, I don't know. It feels like a weird thing if they were to, you know, do something like that. Though I will say, it would be nice to just have like a 1A, 1B, or just a 1 or just an A-B goalie right now, because I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter earlier, the 3 goalie thing at practice. They had 3 nets on one sheet of ice.
I missed that.
What are we doing? Like, there's way too much. This whole 3 goalie thing, carrying 3 goalies for literally no reason, is crazy, and I hope it ends soon because it's stupid. So
it's bad, and they should feel bad.
Yeah. So if getting John Gibson puts an end to having 3 goalie nets at the practice rink, then that's a small victory, I think. But
it would put an end to 3, and it would add a 4th. So I don't really know what you want to do with that.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Like, would you give them one of Kolosov or Fedotov? I know Friedman also said they might send Kolosov to the AHL. You know,
I would give anybody Fedotov.
Honestly,
they're not there.
If you asked me to like lend him out to, like, I don't know, host a children's birthday party, I'd be like, yeah, go nuts. Like, does that get us out of the contract? Sure.
Put him out front of a gas station as a wacky wavy inflatable arm tube man there. You can,
yeah. I'm fine. I don't give one single solitary shit about Fedotov at this point. And he might be the best Flyers goalie of the past month. No, it's still Sam Ersson. But like, yeah, I don't care. They can have Fedotov. Kolosov, I don't know. You know, I'm not sure about him.
Kolosov, I think they need to, like, if there's anyone of the bunch where I feel like they need to like protect him, I guess, and like keep him from being, you know, like appeasing him so he doesn't want to trade or like, you know, whatever. And he's still a rookie, so like he's waiver exempt and everything. But like, I think he's the one that you would want to keep for the longest, Kolosov, because he's the youngest, number one. And number two, we have seen him play well in a professional league before. Like, he was just very good overseas. And I feel like it would behoove the Flyers to keep him around longer than anyone else. Like, you know, Fedotov is 95 years old. So like it's not like he's some guy who's, you know, just coming into his own here.
That man is 12 years younger than me.
Yeah. Like I said, he's really fucking old. And so
where are my spectacles?
And so basically it's just like, at this point, how much better can he actually really get? Like, and how do we really need to find out? I don't think so. And at the price that he's being paid, like, granted, that's just the cost of admission of getting him over here. I don't disagree with them trying it out and seeing what he can be, but what we've seen from him is bad. So like, to me, it's just like, you know, if there's one guy who's going to be kind of the guy to keep around, it would be Kolosov to me. But
I mean, to be fair, I think when they brought Fedotov over, they didn't expect Kolosov to throw a hissy fit about like, well, I want to play in the NHL.
Right. Yeah.
Although I am still convinced that this is all part of the plan, because if Kolosov never played in the NHL, fans would be like, well, you screwed up. You let another prospect walk. Well, now we've seen Kolosov play in the NHL, and we've realized, oh, he's not ready to do this. Like, he can't do it. So if they don't waive him, they send him back to the Phantoms, and he's like, well, I'm going home. I'm going back to the KHL, and he leaves. Fans would be more like, okay, see ya. Like, we saw you play, and you fell apart under the pressure.
Yeah.
You're not ready for the NHL. So if you walk, we don't feel like we're losing out on anything major. So
I think Kolosov gave up a lot of leverage with this whole thing, because like he was like, I'm going to show you, like, I need to be in the NHL right now. And then they're like, all right, fine, we'll do it, whatever. And then they put him in, and he sucks. And it's just, and it's just like, wait a minute, I thought you were good. I thought that's what your whole argument was here.
If he had been right, that confidence would have gone over so well.
Mm-hmm.
But the organization wins either way. They either end up with a good goalie, or they get to send him back to the KHL because he's throwing a hissy fit, and all of the fans have seen like, yeah, he can't do this. So let him spend some more time over there. But yeah, no, he's the one you would want to keep longer. I also just don't think trading for Gibson right now makes any sense.
That was my first reaction with Gibson. It was like, why?
Yeah,
why would the Flyers do it?
That's
like,
the thing. Yeah.
Then I thought about it more like, okay, like you can overpay a goalie for now because you have all these guys on entry level deals, and like you said, yeah, you could have him as the 1A, Urson as the 1B. So if Urson keeps tweaking this groin thing, it's fine. You have Gibson, have Fedotov as the third, I guess. But yeah, then you're bringing a fourth goalie in, unless Kolosov's okay going to the AHL. That's my big thing. Is like the Phantom starting goalie right now is Cal Peterson. He should not be seeing any ice time at all. The Flyers need to be developing something. Have someone in the AHL that they can kind of like to come up.
I also just go back to Jonesy and Briere, or specifically Jonesy, saying, if we're involved with something, you won't hear about it. So the Flyers being mentioned in the same sentence as Gibson, I'm like, no, this is just speculation, because if they were actually like in on Gibson, we probably wouldn't have heard anything, because they've proven that they are very good at keeping things under wraps, and they have said, if you don't hear anything, we're like, yeah.
And that's another thing that I noticed is, so during 32 Thoughts, I feel like the way Elliot Friedman like threw that out there, it didn't sound like he was saying it as like in like a matter of fact type way. I really felt like, at least from my perspective, I thought he was just saying, hey, keep an eye on Philadelphia. Maybe that could work. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think he was saying flat out like, yo, Philly's in on this. Like,
no, it was very much like he was talking about Carolina flirting too much, but this was Elliot Friedman flirting with the idea of the Flyers being in on this trade, which, as we said, doesn't make any damn sense for this team. Like, you could be in the, I'm just, I'm not here to call out Kevin Kurz, but he's the only one I've seen like adamantly calling for the Flyers to get a goaltender. And like, you could be in the Kurz camp here where you're saying the Flyers need a goaltender, because, and you can argue it's not fair to the guys on the current team, but that they're dealing with just like terrible goaltending that over the past couple of weeks has completely sunk them. And it isn't, to a degree. It's not fair to Mishkov, especially not fair to Konechny, who's having a hell of a year on a team that's not supporting him at all. But at the other hand, like, we as fans, especially we as podcasters of this team, guys that watch this team every damn week, no matter what, we are very cognizant of the fact that this team isn't winning a cup, probably isn't making the playoffs, and it's ultimately pointless to move any asset to get a veteran goaltender. You might as well suffer through it, get a better draft pick. I think I'm fully back on the tank train now. Like, the past couple of weeks, I think Tank Steve's back. Tank, baby, tank. Let's go straight to the bottom. And I just, it doesn't make sense to get John Gibson this year. Like, maybe in 2 years, he's going to be 33. I don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any damn sense. So I'm wondering if this is just some gamesmanship from like Gibson's camp to try and move Carolina along or something like, the Flyers are asking about me and their goaltending's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get it though, because 2 years from now is when you would maybe expect Zavragin or Bjarnason to start pushing for NHL minutes. So I would get bringing in Gibson as a stopgap solution until that happens. But at the same time, the Flyers have said again and again and again, this is going to take time. I still would say that the timeline is 2026-ish, because that was when Michkov was originally supposed to come over. Why would you speed it up now? I know that Michkov is here. I know that you're like, let's go. Let's get the center. Let's get the goalie. Let's get the defenseman. It'd be better to wait. You could open the window earlier, but the window might be shorter if you just go all in now. If you wait 2 or 3 years, maybe patience sucks, but then all of a sudden you have a longer window of contention. So
here's the other thing. I feel like you can always find a good vet on the free agent market. Not a great vet, mind you. I think Gibson is a higher level than you usually can find on there. But if you're looking for a stopgap guy, you can always find some solid stopgap guys in there.
But they also have to want to come to Philadelphia and want to be a part of a rebuild. Maybe someone that needs to kind of get their career going again. But like you can say oh, Kevin Lankinen waited till training camp to sign with the Canucks, but the Canucks are a good team, or we're supposed to be a good team. And even I guess Stoli the goalie, Alex Lyon, we always bring up, their places. James Reimer has been around, but I don't know. The more we talk about it, the more I might be okay with Gibson as a stopgap under certain conditions. If the Ducks retain a little bit, they have plenty of cap space. They could retain half of it. They probably want to move him because Lucas Dostal looks better right now. He's younger, looks like the future there in Anaheim. I don't think Carolina's going to go for Gibson because that's not their thing, is to overpay goalies $6 million, especially there with Dr. T. So we've already seen the goalie carousel go around. Blackwood's great now in Colorado. We've seen a bunch of goalies move around and whatnot. So if Gibson's the odd man out and the Flyers can get him for cheap, and maybe it's a Gibson and Zegras, or hopefully McTavish for something like that. Where
so now you're talking to me, Gilbs. This is where I'm at.
Now you're talking.
I'm right there with you. So that's where I'm okay with getting Gibson if you work this into a larger deal. If you're bringing in a Zegras, if you're bringing in a McTavish, somebody that could be a difference maker for this team, because that's the position we keep coming back to as center. They are terrible at center, and that's killing this team offensively. A good center would make such a difference. And, Zegras would be a lot of fun. I don't know about his relationship with Tortsy or anything, but, that's at least the kind of move to move this team in the right direction, help build this team, and help it today by bringing in a more steady goaltender than what they currently have. We all want Sam Emerson to be that guy, but the injuries are scary as hell.
The injuries freak me out.
They freak me out too.
Yeah.
Speaking of injuries, I forgot Zegras. Zegras is on IR right now because he had a torn meniscus. That's something where he might not be the same. He hasn't been the same since that first or second year when he was so amazing. He was then on the cover of NHL 24, and he's been downhill since then.
Well, did you see his face after he scored that goal a couple months ago? He scored a goal and just looked like
it was his first goal in forever, and he looked like he didn't even want to be there. He was just get me the fuck out of here.
Get that guy out of there.
I don't want to be here anymore.
I know.
I don't want to be around anymore.
I don't want to be around anymore.
No, I don't want to be at the Ducks. He's like, my friend Jamie's in Philly. Get me over there.
They need to be back together. That's really what it is. Mm-hmm. So when they're together, that's what makes them good. Is the bromance is what makes them good at hockey. And we've seen that when you split them up, they suck. So we need to bring them together so they can have the electromagnetic currents and
Science.
It's like the Weber twins in Backyard Baseball, or the Delvecchio siblings. You have them on the same team, they get a boost.
Oh, okay. So they together, their twin power makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's when they brought the Shen brothers together, right? Shen needs his brother to play well, and we all saw that worked out.
Hey, we might be able to get some brothers on this team at the draft this year, depending on where the Flyers are picking. They might get Caleb Desnoyers, the brother of Elliot Desnoyers, the Destroyer.
I always have romanticized the idea of having two brothers on the same team. Obviously the Sedins, but there's something my dream was for, and still is, it's still possible, but it's not going to happen. But my dream is for the Flyers to get both Tkachuk brothers. And that's it. That's it.
That's too spicy. That's
the whole team. Don't even think about the rest of the team. Just get the two Tkachuk brothers and fill everything else in however way you can.
They'd be legends here.
it
would be instant legends here, but
they
that
would
be like you'd have to move an entire team's worth of assets to get them.
It would be incredible if that were to happen. But
all three Hughes 2030. All three Hughes in Philadelphia in 2030.
Yeah. That would be great. But yeah, just to kind of, tie this all up, the goaltending sucks. Interesting that they're considering fucking the guy
Gibson.
I think we need to clarify. We have no idea if the Flyers are even interested. It could just be like someone threw it out in the Slack, like,
right, exactly.
Maybe Friedman was just watching the Flyers game. He was like, oh, I'm thinking about John Gibson watching the Flyers. How could this work? Like, we have no idea.
Like we don't know. We really don't know, because again, like the way he said it, it sounded very like not matter of fact, like he was just spitballing. And so, but even if they are interested in him, like, it's something to think about. But like, I don't think that really moves the needle either way. You know what I mean? Because let's pretend the Flyers do trade for John Gibson and they got their starting goalie for the next 2 years or whatever. Now you still need a first line center. You still need more defenseman depth. You still need more high-end talent. Like there's so many areas where the Flyers are just not meeting the mark, and like trading for this goalie isn't going to fix it. So you might as well just like continue going down the road you're going on, build through the draft more, get more young high-end talent in the draft, and then just develop them into good players. But that's the hard part for the Flyers, is developing them into the good players, because they haven't done that in so goddamn long.
I do think it would move the needle, because we've just been saying that the Flyers have league average goaltending. Last year in the playoffs. This year they're closer to the playoffs. They're still only 5-6 points out of a playoff spot. Like they're a 3-game winning streak from being like, all right, let's make the playoffs again. And that's what the whole thing is. Like we talk about team tank versus team make the playoffs, want to be entertained, and the Flyers have made it known they're not going to tank. Like I wrote the article yesterday. Flyers suck against good teams, are okay against mediocre teams, and are great against bad teams. So if they have a better goalie, they can move up a notch. And like you look at the Ducks, who the Flyers are playing tomorrow, we're talking about Gibson. They are awful against bad teams. I think they're like 3-14 against like bad teams or something like that. That's the difference. Like the Flyers, even if they tank, which they don't want to do, which you can argue about being their philosophy with wanting to compete through the rebuild, like they're not as bad as San Jose or Anaheim or Chicago. They're not going to.
We in fact saw that. We saw they crushed San Jose.
Yeah, and we'll see it if the Flyers are going to wipe the Ducks tomorrow. Absolutely, wipe the Ducks, and then we'll be back on board. Especially if they can get a win over Florida. Be like, all right, here we go, 2 points out of this playoff spot.
I mean, famous last words. I hope that's not the famous last word. I hope that Cutter doesn't come into Philly tomorrow and just get like
a hat trick,
2 bar down goals, and then like one of them in over.
I will say that our friends at PHLY have a box going tomorrow. That box, like Bill might be like leading a charge onto the ice alone if that happens. Like just mass pandemonium, chaos in the street, dogs and cats married to each other. It's going to be crazy. I don't think that's going to happen. I really do think that they're going to take care of business. We need them to take care of business, because this is the one game that we need them to like actually kick ass and dominate
the shit out of them. Yeah.
We don't want to see Cutter do well, obviously, but also like this is a game they should win, and we need something that feels good, because the last few games have been frustrating. They sucked in the Stars game. They were terrible in the Stars game. Yeah. And then they should have won Leafs game too. That there's a lot of frustration to have that.
Honestly, you could argue that they like could have won both games against.
They could have won both Leafs games. Easy. Yeah. And the second one though, they played really well that game. Yeah.
And
thanks, Owen Tippett.
Like they were in it last night against the Stars. I mean, it was 3-0. They scored that goal. They had a power play to potentially make it 3-2. Like, as much as they got completely embarrassed, and I absolutely loved the Bronx cheer in the second period. Like, you normally see that for a goalie or for like a pitcher in baseball, like one person, but the whole team, just like I love the atmosphere there. Like, yeah, boo 'em. I mean, I don't know if Ed Snyder night is a big part of that, but like, yeah, it was embarrassing from
it did feel a little extra rowdy though for Ed Snyder night.
Oh,
like,
it was good.
It definitely felt like
nice. Yeah,
maybe the old school guys like, I'm coming down and I'm booing the shit out of this team.
Well, I mean, this was the Stars' revenge game after the Flyers absolutely embarrassed them last year at like the same time of year, right? So they came in really motivated.
Bill and I were saying this on postgame last night, but like it felt like they were specifically like really trying to box out Owen Tippett and keep him contained last night because Owen Tippett just destroyed them last year.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Owen Tippett real fast?
Wait, guys. Do we want to let Thomas on the pod here? I see him in the waiting room.
Is he in the waiting room?
We want him out
completely
into the stage here. He's complaining in the YouTube chat too. Just typical
yeah.
Thomas. How about you put a Hosers episode out, Thomas? And you can
I did. Oh my god, I didn't even see it. So yeah, there's Thomas. Yeah, sorry, Thomas. I didn't even see you there, Holmes.
From the show, sorry, I'm joining from my phone, so this probably sounds like fuck. I'm sorry, Steve, that you have no control over the audio quality.
It's killing me.
Yeah, I'm here. Probably not for long. How's it going? I was kind of tuning in a little bit, but Steve was trying to silence me, so it's fine. But
yeah, I'm trying to keep him contained.
Yeah.
Well, Quigs wants to talk about Owen Tippett, and I'm on board with that. I want to talk some Tip.
Dog, that fucking wide open net against Toronto. Like, listen, I understand. It happens. It happens sometimes. Like, listen, we've seen great players fuck up royally. We saw Saquon Barkley do it against Atlanta earlier on in the season for the Eagles. Like, we saw that. We saw Devontae Smith do it. And, like, it's fine because, like, we know that, like, it rarely happens. You know what I mean? Like, we can depend on them and we can count on them. Would you say that Owen Tippett this season has been dependable?
No.
Oh, that's a loaded word. That's a loaded term.
He wasn't
there.
dependable last year. And like Joe and I have kind of debated this on the pod before, but I don't know if I love the contract as much as I loved it last year when he signed it. I mean, his center's been Ryan Paling, so you can't really complain about it too much. But like you said, that missed net against the Leafs there was.
You have to score that goal. Like, you're Owen Tippett. You're the guy on the team who's supposed to score that goal. Him. There's three guys who are supposed to score there: Konechny, Tippett, and Mishkov. And if you have that opportunity there, and you don't convert, it's just so bad. It is such a bad look. And like, listen, I still like Owen Tippett as a player. I know that he hasn't been playing well, or let me actually rephrase. I know that he doesn't have the numbers this year that he had in, last season and even the year before. He was like playing pretty well, but I would expect him to capitalize on a chance like that. You know what I mean? And it just feels like there's just been a lot lacking with Owen Tippett this season. And do I think that this is, going to continue for the long term? And like the Owen Tippett we're seeing this season is who he is forever? I don't think so. I think he could come back next year and just, go ham. Yeah. Maybe this is the outlier season. But like he's not been playing. He's not been great this year. He's been a huge disappointment.
Look, in his defense, Flyers versus the open net is the greatest storyline of this entire season.
It really is.
It's not just Owen Tippett. Morgan Frost.
Yeah. Morgan Frost.
Joel Farabee in like game 2 of the season. Hello, Bruce. Joel Farabee in like game 2 or 3 of the season misses the open net, and there's that iconic image of him just looking like Edward Munch's The Scream, like right next to the net.
Right.
This is an ongoing Flyers problem. I'm not like, yes, Tippett should score those goals, but nobody on the Flyers is scoring those goals either. So I'm a little bit softer on him for it.
Also, to be fair to him, his most common line mates have been Frost and Michkov, two of the other most inconsistent players on the Flyers. Like when he was at his best, he was with Couturier and Konechny. Like that was a great line. So Tippett can't carry a line. That's fine. But he can be a good second or third guy on a hopefully a second line.
Yeah.
He can be Val Nichushkin. Like
without
that kind of role.
Without the drugs, hopefully.
Without all of the other stuff. But
without the Russian.
Yeah. Big power forward who can just score goals and like be an accessory piece on a line. Sure, there you go.
Do we think Tippett has like the second or third tool to be like the actual trigger man on a line though? Like I know his speed obviously off the rush and stuff, but like if he's just speed and shoot, does he have enough tertiary skill or along the boards or something like that? Does he have enough like Forrester has in spades in comparison? But do we really think Tippett has enough of another side of his game that if he's not scoring, then he's bringing something else?
I do.
He needs to go to the Bobby Brink gym over the summer and just bulk up like Bobby did.
Does he like cut off his shins too? To like,
Yeah, go ahead.
Just completely cuts off his shins. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Play some shinny. I guess that's what that is. No, Owen Tippett is a much better setup guy than he gets credit for. I wrote about this at the beginning of the season. Owen Tippett last year, in terms of shots and primary shot assists, is on par with Austin Matthews. Obviously, the big difference is that Austin Matthews' shooting percentage is like 17%. And Owen Tippett's is like 9%. But he is setting up and creating scoring chances at a similar-ish, by one stat metric, similar-ish rate to Austin Matthews. If they start going in, hey, like that'll be great. If he has one season where he's shooting 15, 16%, and that's his outlier, like high-end season, he's going to get 35, 40. But he is a much better setup guy than he gets credit for. And we did see a stretch of him doing that through December. I think it was December. But he's got to do that more if he's not going to put the puck in an open net.
It's so frustrating just because he is one of the most talented guys on this team. Like he has more speed. I think he's got to be the fastest guy on the team, right?
Yeah.
Outside of Mr. Tony Dick over there, but like he's
one of the fastest in the league. He's one of the fastest in the league, not just the Flyers, but the league.
I think last season wasn't he clocked in? He had that one shift where I think they clocked him in as like the fastest, like skating.
Fastest burst.
That they had all season long.
And it's just so frustrating because, like, it is what Thomas is saying about the tertiary skills, like the board skills and everything that he kind of lacks that keeps him from having a complete game. But if you could see him more consistently do the amazing things, and that's tough, it is tough to pull that out every game. But, like, man, when you see a guy do a goddamn spinorama goal like that, like he did last year,
crazy,
or just some of the other things he does, like, he has the skill, and it's like, society, if Owen Tippett could just hit an open net, right? Like, if he could just stop having all his shots blocked, it would be utopia.
I guess hopefully we see Tippett kind of go the Konechny route, or Konechny he had a good season here and there, and then when the Flyers were sucking, Konechny really wasn't putting up great numbers. Like 2021, 2022, he had 16 goals, 52 points. That was his age 24 season, 61 points the next year, and now we've seen him really come on the past 2 years. So I don't know if he needs more. I mean, he definitely needs more in his two-way game. Maybe put him out there on the PK. We're seeing them try Farabee, try Forster. Like, I would love to see his speed on the PK.
That's interesting.
The difference between those two is like Owen Tippett's best season hasn't even like reached like, bottom of the barrel Konechny. Well, no, I guess last season he was. I would put him on
53 points. Yeah,
that's
where Konechny was at in 2022. He had 52.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe like he's one of those players. I think you're right. Like maybe when they get good, he will become better. You know what I mean? Like he'll rise up and we'll start seeing more of more inflated numbers, which would be great. But like,
I think the stunning thing with this team is just like you keep saying with a bunch of guys, like, oh, if they only had a center, this guy would be great.
Yeah, I heard you say that last night on the post game with Bill over there. It's like, it's like all these guys, if they had a center, they could be so much better. Like, go get Elias Pettersson. Give them any 2 roster players, any 3 roster players besides any 3 North American roster players. Take them.
God, I hope that it's unbelievable to me that the number one problem with this team is lack of a high-end center, and Pettersson's reportedly available, and the Flyers are not the number one rumored team on him. Like, it drives me insane.
Well, this goes back.
It was too soft.
This goes back to like Jonesy saying, if we're involved with something, you're not going to hear about it.
Right. But I honestly don't think they're involved in it.
Probably not
whatsoever.
And I just don't think the Flyers have enough. Like, Vancouver doesn't want draft picks.
No.
And then the roster players that other teams can offer, like Islanders are reported like Noah Dobson's available. Like Noah Dobson clears every Flyer that would be available. And like it's just I just don't think that Flyers probably made one phone call to Alvin, and then they're like, oh, you want actually way more than we could offer.
I mean,
I have heard it's a hard job.
You need a 3-way, like Joe said on the podcast last week. You need a third team.
Sure do, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas, where was that thing you saw that Boston was reportedly like for Patra and like Zaka? Was that like reputable?
this account that does Canucks updates, basically, like this like summary news account. I forget where their source was, but yeah, it was like something. It was like Poitras, Poitras, or whatever.
Frederick was in
Who
there.
was it? Trent Frederick or Pavel Zacha was the veteran, and then Poitras or someone else, I forget. But like it was basically a young player, a veteran on the lineup, like a top 6 player, middle 6 or whatever, and then a first and a second or something like that, or like 2 firsts or something like that. Like, I don't know if that's like from Vancouver's position or Boston. That's what they're like willing to get the trade for Pettersson, but yeah, I could see if a Pettersson trade goes down, because I honestly don't see it happening. But if it happens, I bet it'll be like something like that. But the Flyers, like the roster players that would go actually would be like Sanheim or Konechny that they'd want. Like and Sanheim obviously has no trade or no move or whatever, and then Konechny, they're not trading Konechny. So yeah.
I could see him wanting Risto though. They want like a right shot defenseman with term. I could see Risto or York being the defenseman, and then Tippett, Farabee.
But like, would they be enough though?
I've heard that if you get Rasmus Ristolainen into the playoffs, he turns into supersonic. He turns golden.
Yeah,
he starts just destroying guys with a touch. He flies.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Thomas. I don't think there's nearly enough. I don't think the Flyers have nearly enough artillery to pull off a trade for that. But I will say this: even if they can't get Elias Pettersson, I don't give a fuck what they do this summer, this offseason, trade deadline or draft trade, whatever it is. They cannot go into next season with this same group of centers. They need, like, that has to be their number one priority. You can talk about goaltending all you want. I don't care. They need a center so bad because this is just ridiculous. Ryan Poehling should not be your first line center. Morgan Frost is like, he's the only guy, he's the only center on the team that's like, you could argue is a top 6 center, and he is not a top 6. He's not.
No.
Like,
I'm still laughing that his goal came off of like his like little guy screen last night, where he like curled up into a ball in front of the net. It's like, I'm screening the goalie.
Yeah, Morgan Frost. They need a center, like someone who's an actual functioning center.
Would you even say the Flyers have a first line? I think they just have 4 lines. Like, they don't have like a first, second, third, fourth. They just have four sets of 3 players that they put on the ice sometimes.
I'll say right now, the first line right now has to be Cates, Forrester, and Brink.
Love it.
That's
which
a
is
third
great.
line.
Like,
it's a third line. Like the Flyers have 4.
I would say it's a second line. It could be a second line.
Steve's right.
Yeah, on a
it could be a second line.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah, but because Tyson Forrester is a great 2-way player, Noah Cates can be a really good 2-way player. I'm not going to say anything about Bobby Brink.
Hey,
because of those 2 factors.
Right.
Bobby Brink has some very nice offensive skill, and he is a maddening defensive player.
Yes. Okay, that's fair.
Wait, so you're arguing that could be a second line on a good team?
I mean, it could. Well, 2 of those elements could be. I don't know about the Brinkster.
Yeah.
Tyson Forrester. Here's the thing: you have a lot of elements of a top 6.
I didn't know you're such a Brink hater.
That's crazy.
He's fine.
I feel like Forster's going to be a top 6 winger very soon. It should be a top.
Forster's
6
a
winger
monster. I love Forster. The stats we have here, by the way, I don't know which of you guys put that in there.
I put them in there. Those are very, very cherry picked here. But since
Gilster, you want to read those off for us?
Yeah. Since his two goal game last year against Boston on January 27th, he has 25 goals in 70 games, which is tied for the 65th most in the NHL. That's second on the Flyers, behind only Konechny, who has 31 in the same span. So, I mean, his assists aren't there, his points aren't there, but he's scoring. We've seen him snipe. We've seen him get there in front of the net, get those dirty goals. Like, he's someone that he's not a center, but Thomas has compared him to Mark Stone before, and he can be that type of guy, I think, as soon as next year.
Dude, he's scoring goals too. The baby knows. This team needs goal scoring so bad that Absolutely, I will take it from Typho out there. And well, that was part of actually that was the main appeal when they drafted him was his big shot. Like they were like, this guy can't skate a lick. He has no idea. He's never seen a skate in his life, but he can shoot like a mother. Like
Right.
that was his thing. The defensive prowess has been a nice bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, or sorry, Gilbert. That was a very Meltzery description you had there, but whatever.
Oh, what description exactly? Sorry.
Meltzer.
Meltzer.
Meltzery. I thought you were using some crazy Canadian term.
I thought it was like Malteser or something. I was like
spelled with like 3 U's.
I said it's a cherry picked stat, absolutely. But yeah, that's you gotta do that sometimes.
Here's the thing: he's been hot lately, and that's been big because Mishkov hasn't been, which is a shame. TK, he's been consistent, but like he hasn't been like. I feel like TK was hot to start the year, and I'd have to look at his numbers. I mean, he's still leading the Flyers in points by a mile, but like he's needed somebody to be hot lately.
He also looked like he was playing hurt for like a month and a half of this season. Like, I don't know how bad. Like, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he just always like gets up off the ice like he's just an 80-year-old man getting out of bed in the morning. But
I understand that feeling.
Yeah, so that's just what he looks like. Maybe that's just what he looks like when he gets up. He's always like, and I'm like,
we got a beanbag chair here in the living room, and every time I get up from that, I get up like an 80-year-old man. It's terrible.
Yeah. So maybe that's it.
Something we have not talked about yet, and Elliot Friedman brought this up on 32 Thoughts as well. And perhaps you guys talked about it in the like 2 minutes that you were on before I jumped on, but
we mostly talked about beer.
Scott Laughton. Evidently, he's one of the sexy names out there that teams are thinking of. And apparently, according to him, he's saying the Flyers, like judging by what they're telling teams, it seems like they're not that interested in trading him, which I get because, listen, locker room, intangibles, leadership, that whole jazz 9-yard situation, I get it. But where do you guys stand on this? Where do you stand on Scott Laughton? Should they trade Scott Laughton? Is he important enough from a locker room intangible perspective to keep on the Flyers in spite of what they may be offered?
Man, the Flyers sure think he is, but he isn't.
If it's Scott Laughton for Elias Pettersson, trade is 1-for-1. You make that deal.
I mean,
not according to some people on Blue Sky. They're not giving up Scott Laughton for Elias Pettersson. But no,
did you see him kiss Matvei Michkov on the helmet?
It was adorable.
They were on the bench together after they'd run into each other. You can't trade this guy. Like, clearly you cannot trade this guy.
They're not trading him. They're not trading him. We're going to hear rumors. We're going to blog up the rumors and there'll be tons of clicks. That's what we do. But
July 1st,
they're not
July
trading.
1st, extension. 6-year extension, $2.5 million a year. Book it.
Joe, you're a madman.
I still can't believe that extension happened.
6 years.
That's still a crazy contract. Like just not the salary.
Fuck, this is crazy.
Like that Scott Laughton contract is a contract structured that way is so rare, where you're getting paid like not much and you're getting paid not much for a really long time, and you signed the contract. Yeah. Like that's so weird to me.
He wants to be here.
At least he didn't go the way of like Pierre Engvall, who got waived, or like Tanner Jeannot, who the Lightning overpaid for. Like
Barclay Goudreau.
Yeah, but
yikes.
The one thing I could see is the Flyers trading Laughton next year, and he could be the one guy where you trade him and he does re-sign in the offseason. Like trade him, let him go chase a cup for 1 year, and then he'll come back. But he doesn't have a no move clause, but he has a no move clause. They're not going to trade him without his permission.
Yeah, it's called leadership. That's no move clause, baby. He's like 4th on the team in scoring right now.
Yeah,
I know,
which is wild.
Like, he's like secretly
all in 2 games though.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
the
dick trick. What
my thing with Scott is like I love him to death, and I like he's like as a player I like him. He's not a bad player, but he's not a game-changing player whatsoever. And like teams have disillusioned themselves into thinking like this is a guy like who could put us over the top, and like they'd be willing to give up a not insignificant amount of capital, whatever that might be, draft capital, a player, a talent, whatever it is. But like he has value across the league, and it infuriates me as much as I like Scott Lawton and his game and how, important he is to the locker room. It infuriates me that the Flyers are so in love with him that he's like, for most NHL teams, like you point at their star player and they're like, yeah, he's untouchable. You can't touch him. For the Flyers, Scott Lawton is their untouchable, which is just crazy to me. It's so weird.
It's insane. It's insane.
I think it doesn't make sense to trade him until his replacement is readily available. Like, there's no one banging on the door in Lehigh Valley that can do what Lawton does. Like, until Denver Barkey gains 50 pounds in muscle and he's here in 2 years and he's scoring a point per game in the AHL, then I don't think trading Lawton for like a mid-second round pick doesn't really change a whole lot. Like, you're not going to be saying that, oh, you should be playing Ole Lexell there. Like, and then what does that do really for you? Like, other than it's just a placeholder until something else happens. And then you possibly made your players more upset just for the sake of drafting a guy who will never come overseas from Sweden or whatever. Right. Your next Jack fucking Berglund or something.
Now, I'll say this. If they get offered a first, you got to, like,
you have to pull the trigger on it. I think any GM that trades a first for Scott Lawton should be fired immediately.
Stupid. That's dumb. I say no. That would be a dumb move. But like, I mean, that's what the Flyers are asking for. And like, obviously, like, just because that's what the Flyers are asking for doesn't mean they're going to get it. But like, if a team does offer a first and you don't pull the trigger on that, that's dumb. And that is bad management. And so far, like, listen, I haven't been given any reasons to think that Danny Briere is bad at his job. Like, has he been perfect? No, he's done several things where I would have done things a little bit different, but also I'm an idiot. So maybe I shouldn't be, like, I don't know. But like, if that were to happen, and we already heard a rumor that has happened before, where the Flyers were offered a first for Lawton and they said, no, screw off, kick rocks. We're not going to do that. If they get offered a first for Lawton at this year's trade deadline and they say, no, we want to keep him around, that's
madness.
Poor decision-making.
Yeah.
Listen, Quigs, I was told that you cannot find top-line talent later in the first round. So is a late first-round pick from a contending team really all that useful?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
I love also the analysis this year that it's actually like, well, the Flyers are in a bad position having 3 first-round picks. Kiss my ass.
Here's another thing, though. Just because you have, like, so let's pretend the Flyers, let's pretend they get a first-round pick.
Sure.
They're offered a first-round pick for Scott Lawton, and they're like, okay, and then they trade him. Just because you have 4 first-round picks doesn't mean you need to use them all. No. You can use those picks as trade chips. Like, and that's the thing. Like, use those picks. You don't have to use them as, like, lottery tickets and hope to God that the guy you get 27th overall is going to turn out to be a good player. You can just be like, well, we have a lot of this capital. Like the Flyers need to think of their first round picks as money. Use those picks and trade them for good players, like center.
Okay, but the Flyers need
to draft. Has entered the chat. Wow.
The Flyers need to draft my guy Simon Wang out of Oshawa.
Yes,
he's like 6'7". He's a monster. He's insane, and he's probably going to go late first round. So
yeah,
we love size.
We'll do stuff, but he's sick. I've watched a couple Giants games.
Only if you wear his number 69. You can get a Wang 69 jersey.
Wang 69. I think that's the best-selling jersey in NHL history, right there.
Yeah. The only thing I will add,
Wang 0. There's a big hole.
Wang 0.
I also think if they trade Lawton for a first-round pick, it could very well be in next year's draft, especially because the Leafs are the one team we've heard, and they don't have a first-round pick this year.
No, and one thing I will also add, I like what Briere did by kicking the can down the road, trading the Florida pick for the Edmonton pick this year. If you can get a first-round pick in this year's draft for Scott Lawton, and you don't like any of the prospects, swap it for a first-round pick next season. Because then you have a first-round pick that you can use to get a player who might become available next year, right? So if you just keep pushing these first-round picks down the road until a trade presents itself, that's also an option.
2 or 3 years away from being 2 or 3 years away. I love it.
Oh, yeah. We're right back where we started. Right back at the bottom. Now we're looking up. Now, I want to get into some of the. We gotten a few questions at this point.
Oh, good.
That I want to get into. But before I get into that, I need to present a headline that Joe posted in our little chat here. So I'm just going to present it. We're all very excited to see this. This is not going to make anybody infuriated. So, do we all see this now, folks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cutter Gautier prepares to face booing Flyers fans. I just wish they knew the truth.
That you're a bitch.
Buddy,
Tell us.
you know why we don't know the truth? Because you haven't told us the truth. We can handle the truth. Tell us the truth, you idiot.
Jesus. Say
I
it.
hate him. I hate him so much.
You know, it would suck if he came out and he told us something fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I want him to tell us something
That would
crazy.
suck.
Because then I could say, oh, we were all wrong. As Alex just said in the chat, we're all waiting for the truth, bud. We want the truth. We can handle the truth.
Right.
I heard Kevin Hayes gave him a swirly or something, so then he wanted to be traded.
Oh,
Dude,
yeah. That's
John Tortorella, like, gave him a wet willy.
Yeah.
Scott Lawton gave him a wedgie. Like, what could it possibly be?
I don't know, but he said, direct quote in the article, I believe the media, this is in regards to his circled on the calendar comment before the other Ducks game. I believe the media likes to take things and run with it, especially right after the trade. There was a lot of lies circling the internet. It's unfortunate because I'm not going to be out there and badmouth the Flyers organization because obviously they're such a historic organization and a great organization. And I was fortunate enough to be drafted by them. I was super honored to be picked by them. The media likes to take stuff and run with it. It was a bit unfortunate to see some of the lies they were spreading, but I wish them all the best moving forward.
What lies?
What lies?
He fucking said it. He said the circle of the calendar comment. So he's like, oh, media runs with it. Oh, the media, they took it out of context. Dude, you fucking said it.
You said it.
I'm not going to get into the details with it. I'm going to keep that a private matter. Oh, my God.
Okay,
if only
dude.
they knew the truth that I refuse to tell them.
Yep.
What could it be? I
What
can't
could it
even
be?
fathom what it could be.
I honestly think this kid's just saying shit just to say shit because, like, he
Yeah.
did the same thing at what was it, last year, the national championship game?
There's going to be tears.
He was like, we're going to come out here and we're going to fucking, like, we're going to send him home crying or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that? And then they
They
lost. And it's just like, you fucking dunce. What are you doing? So this kid is
What are we doing, kid? What are we doing?
Yeah, this kid's got. I think he just needs. I think he just needs to shut up. Is what I think he needs to do, and just shut up and dribble, dude.
You could say.
Shut up and dribble.
He needs to duck the questions.
Oh, that's foul.
That's a good one.
That's
That
foul.
was good.
Oh,
And-
God. Oh, wait.
Oh.
Oh, God. Oh, good night and good hockey. That's enough. No questions. We're done. No
Foul.
way.
He's on the Blues now.
Oh, fuck. Oh.
All right. How do I kick Joe off? Just, remove from stage. Okay, there we go.
Bye, everybody.
I don't know if we actually got anything in the Discord. I saw a couple in the in Blue Sky at least, so I will go over to Blue Sky. Also,
Let's
if you're
do it.
watching on the live stream on YouTube, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat here. We can field any of those right now. But I'm making myself a little drinky poo before we get into that little Sazerac there. So cheers for round two. And let's go. I saw at least one on there. So, okay.
Hit us
Brute
with it.
Impact on Blue Sky asked, what do you think is the best way to deal with the goaltending? Trade Fedotov, or he said Fediwap or Sexy Alexi. Try to get a Gibson type to run as the number one with Ayers as the backup. Wait for Zavragan. It's just so hard watching the team play well just for pucks to end up in the back of our net.
I think we covered this, didn't we?
Well,
Do
well,
nothing.
if
covered it a
Thomas
little
is,
bit.
if Thomas is there and his baby isn't crying, I do want to hear his thoughts on the whole Gibson situation.
Yeah, she's fine. I'm just bouncer. I think Gibson. I think I said it in the Slack, but Gibson makes sense a little bit to me just because of I think Joe mentioned it too. I was listening in a little bit, but the timeline, just with 2 years left, and you're waiting for Bjarnason and Zavragan to probably show up like soon after that contract expires. Like the timeline just makes sense. So, in what kind of goalie are you going to really get that makes a difference? That will sign a 2-year deal like happily. Like Logan Thompson isn't just like coming over here and just like, oh yeah, 2 years, $3 million, yeah, that's fine. So I think it makes sense in a vacuum of a team wanting to get better and secure and fill a hole, basically. But I don't like it's an awkward fit just because of doing it mid-season. I could see it happen in the summer maybe, but then you have to see, and like this kind of answering the blue sky question, but like the mailbag question, it's like I'd rather see them add a free agent that's like a low end free agent in the summer, a veteran guy to like be the 1B to Harrison or be able to be a hot hand and maybe take over the starter position when Harrison's not good. But yeah, like it's just I think there's other ways to address it than potentially giving up a decent pick for Gibson, especially midseason. Midseason doesn't really make sense, and I could see Gibson not really wanting to stick around in Anaheim until the season ends. So yeah.
It also is worth mentioning he has I believe 10-team NTC. Let me just double check real quick. He has a 10-team no trade list. So if the Flyers are on that, tough shit. But
yeah, I honestly just feel like, and this is like a really boring answer, I just feel like they should just ride it out.
Yes,
they should ride it out.
I can
ride it out. Like there's like to me like like parting with assets for, you know, a 31-year-old guy whose best days are behind him. Like how much is John Gibson really going to change this team? You know, like I just don't think, and I do understand what you guys are saying about the timeline and everything, because he does fit the timeline for sure. But like, you know, if you're going to trade for John Gibson and he's only marginally better than Sam Ersson, then what's the point?
I mean, the only other case you could make is that he would be made available at next year's trade deadline when his contract, 2 years from now when his contract is about to expire. You'd make him available at the deadline, and then you'd recoup some of the assets you gave up to get him. But I still don't know if that's the best approach.
Yeah,
like I was going to bring that up too. Yeah,
yeah. Like, well, who's to say that at that point, like his value hasn't gone down a lot, like really bad, you know? Because like it's not like we've been seeing him just tearing it up in Anaheim, you know? Like right now he's the 1B.
I mean,
he has good numbers this year, though.
This season's playing really well. I think Anaheim, his last two seasons were like 880 something, which would have been the best Flyers goalie right now. But
yeah, let me.
The Ducks were so bad defensively. Like with that, those numbers you could just take. Like, I think you need that context. And then this season, when they've like shortened up a little bit, then now he says like a 914. Which is like insane. So
I'm sure that's partially himself being like, oh, if I want out and I want to go to a good team, I have to play well. And in previous seasons, maybe he was like, what the fuck is the point? Like, we're tanking. Why should I put in all of this effort to be good? So now that there's stakes in it for him, aka going to a competitive team, he's like, I got to show that I can still play. And he has. So far,
I don't know how much I believe in that, but I'm just thinking from the Flyers front office perspective. Like, if Torts is truly sick of this goaltending situation, and Gibson is available, and Briere and Jones come to him and be like, "Hey, what are we thinking?" Like, they want to compete during the rebuild, and
the Torts of it is the biggest factor here, Gilbs, that I think we haven't discussed, because like, while it makes sense to us to just ride it out, that is a very impatient man who has to watch this hockey team every night over there. And he has such sway in the front office that if Torts really does want a goaltender in there, then they might have to try and make something happen, you know, because it is hard to watch some nights. You know, Kolosov is so raw right now, and the way he just can't handle the speed of the NHL game is really rough. I still don't think it makes much sense to trade for Gibson, especially like, what's the most you would trade for John Gibson?
I mean,
the worst
third
of the
rounder
second round picks.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe a third round pick, maybe like a third round pick, like an okay prospect, maybe like a prospect who's not really moving the needle that much.
So Fedotov,
Tuomala.
I don't know if
I'm still like interested in him. Yeah, I'm still like curious about Samu Tuomala.
Samu had some interesting, play in the preseason. He wasn't amazing, but like he had some good plays, so I'm interested by him. I wouldn't throw him away on this Gibson, which this just feels like, dude, this is just like spinning wheels right there. This is like emptying water in the Titanic. Like it doesn't like
I mean, you brought up torts. The only thing that's concerning there is like if the skaters quit because their goaltending stinks, then that's a torts problem all of a sudden. Because then the forwards and defensemen are like, well, what's the point? Our goalie's going to let it in anyway.
Right.
I mean, the skaters aren't quitting though, but it is kind of, I don't know if it's concerning, but I was listening to post game last night with Steve and how Charlie brought up that Frost brought up the booing. Like he wasn't even asked about it. He brought him up himself. So if that's going on in the locker room and then it turns from, okay, they were booing the team and the team starts playing well again and the goalies start falling off. Like Gibson's a guy where if the Flyers had Gibson this whole season, they would be in a playoff spot. The Blue Jackets are in a playoff spot right now. Like the Flyers are not that much worse than Columbus. So, and Gibson's a guy where if they make the playoffs, he could get hot. And
I'd even argue the Flyers are better than Columbus. Like,
yeah,
I think this is if the Flyers had better goaltending, they would be ahead of Columbus in the stand. I don't understand why Columbus is where they are.
They're just amazing at home. They're unbelievable at home. I mean,
the cannon
been great for them. The cannon, yeah, that's exactly.
Boom.
But yeah, their top line's been real good.
Yeah, and so yeah, if Gibson's out there and the Flyers are somehow seriously interested, I know I am much more team playoffs than most people, but like this is one of the most fun times to be a sports fan is when you don't expect anything. You want your team to play well. Like last year was extremely fun. Think about the past few years since Bryce Harper was signed as a Phillies fan. Have you enjoyed a regular season at all? You just get to the postseason and be like, all right, you're anxious until they make the World Series. Like this is, yeah, it sucks watching them suck and it sucks going through all these shitty players, but they're competitive. They have 6 picks in the top 50 or so in the draft. They have assets. Like as long as they don't give up a second round pick for him, I'd happily give up a third round pick or like a third and Frost for Gibson and whatever, like something like that.
We all really care about Frosty at this point.
Maybe Hagen a third for Gibson.
Hagen a third. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Can we consider Zamula like the new Haig in that regard? Like we could throw Zamula in on these deals like that.
He's Mishkov's best friend.
Haig has to be Helga Grons, but
Mishkov is making friends. Okay, he's making friends by just being a badass.
If it's not Gibson, because I think Gibson's probably the best goalie that's on the market, like to move at the deadline, would you want them to address the goaltending at all? Like obviously we've seen like James Reimer and
Martin Jones.
Anthony Ranta.
I was gonna say,
like,
what's Anthony Ranta up to these days?
Al Pickard
dead somewhere. Like he's fucking always injured. But like, would you want them to address it at all? Like do an Eric Johnson-esque trade for a goalie, like trade a 5th round pick for James Reimer just to get like someone with some experience back there at all?
No.
If Urson's hurt, yes. If Urson's healthy, no.
Alex just pointed out in the chat, by the way, that Meech and Lotz are best friends now. So yeah.
I mean,
now that they're kissing each other on the head, I mean, Zamula's done.
The fanfics are writing themselves out there.
Yeah,
oh man, what an era that was! I almost missed that.
What do you mean that was? I'm sure that's still very much.
Yeah, but
book talk.
Dude, there was a time.
It was. Yeah.
All the old heads know what I'm talking about. Okay, the old heads know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I know one certain. Whatever. Never mind.
Well, the day of Tumblr, okay, was a different time for that.
It's not Tumblr, Steve. There's many other sites. I forgot exactly.
I know it's not Tumblr now. Yeah,
it's, Zanga Live Journal.
No, it's what's it called?
Live Journal.
Angel Fire.
No, it's like something of their one of their own or something like that.
I don't want to say that I know it,
but you do. I don't want to say that I know it either.
I didn't pour enough whiskey for this conversation.
I don't even know.
I want to get. I'm gonna get off of this soonish because I have to go record my hockey on the podcast. But I want to address the time to move on. Joel Farabee, Morgan Frost in the show.
Okay,
because
let's address that. I have one other question, and then we can all wrap it up and go enjoy our Friday nights. But quick shout out before we do that to the people that have been participating over in the chat over here. I see we got JR, we got Alex. So thank you for participating today. You guys are awesome, and everybody watching, we do appreciate it.
But I really appreciate that Alex Ovechkin took time out of his pregame ritual to come support the Broad Street Hockey.
Joe's never going to invited again. He's done. He's cut off. Let's talk about. So I'm very intrigued right now. Like we've brought up before, Quigs and I have brought up before on Flype at length. Morgan Frost. I'm exhausted of talking about Morgan Frost. Faraby's a guy who
Tired of him.
I went from a huge Joel Farabee fan to what the hell is he doing?
Mm-hmm.
So those are two guys that I'm like, what? I'm kind of just tired of talking about it at this point.
And what's unfortunate about Joel Farabee is like, whether you like him or don't like him, if you don't like him, you're probably thinking, well, okay, we'll just trade him. With what value? What value does he have? You can't trade him right now unless you just want to trade him for nothing, like nothing of actual value. At this point, you got to keep him. And so it's just like, you can't really do anything about it. Morgan Frost, of the two of them, he's the one that has something of value because he has high-end talent. He has high-end skill. I just don't think he's on the right team for it.
Yeah, he's not on the right team.
He's not at the right position. He needs to be moved.
He's a winger.
He's a winger. He's a winger.
He's not a center. He's definitely not a first-line center.
Yeah.
No.
He's not a center, but we got a question in YouTube here. How many years left on Farabee contract? That's the thing. No one's going to trade for someone on pace for 28 points. He has $5 million through 2028. Like the Flyers would be dumb to move on from him right now. He played well on that top line with Konechny and Couturier. There was just no finish whatsoever. Like they were driving play. That's still one of their best lines in terms of expected goals for this season. It's just he could not finish. He was snake bitten, and I don't think that's a skill issue. I think it's just luck. Like hockey's a game of inches, like here and there. So scored 22 goals last year, had 50 points. Like I hate that he's on the fourth line, but I mean, maybe Tortorella's trying to get some physical game out of him to get something else, like we were talking about with Tippett.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what got me, Gills, was seeing him on the fourth line and fighting guys. I'm like, who is this guy? This does not like him and Scott Lawton switch bodies, I think.
I mean, he shaved his head, so we know he's down bad.
The Nick Sirianni, except it worked for Sirianni.
What's Nick Deslauriers doing right now?
He's injured.
Hurt. Yeah, he's hurt. Well, he's
is he actually? Oh wow, okay. Yeah.
Also,
good timing there.
Actually.
Interesting.
Also, just a point of order. Farabee's shooting percentage is 7.1. His career average is 12. Like there is an element of just not having the shot right now.
I gotta say though, this just feels like a bad fit. Him and Tortorella, like. I don't think Torts knows what to do with him, and I don't think he knows how to play under Torts. It just does not felt like a good marriage so far.
I mean, we've been seeing this for 2 years now, or over that, since the 2021-22 season. Was it that season?
Well, no,
22-23.
Whatever the hell that was.
Yeah, whenever he came back from the injury, like we heard the reports. Joel Farabee's agent talking shit about Torts and like whether that was fabricated or not, there's definitely animosity somewhere between the two of them, and it's just I don't think it's ever going to actually work out between them. So
I mean, with the cap increases, $5 million a year, it's not a huge deal right now. Like
it's not a huge deal, but I want them to figure something out, man.
Yeah.
It bums me out seeing his usage right now because I know this is a guy capable of more. He's a guy that I thought I always think back to the Claude Giroux endorsement when Claude Giroux was traded that he's like, watch out for Joel Farabee.
Yeah.
This is going to be the guy. And he hasn't come close to that.
Yeah.
I really thought he was going to be like a staple top six winger for a long time for the Flyers, and
still could.
He still could. He still could. But I have such huge doubts now, and I hope to be proven wrong. Steve, I've said this so many times about Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. These two dudes in particular, I am begging to be proven wrong. I just don't think I'm going to, and it's just so sad and dismal.
I think the frustrating thing too, as fans and podcasters of this team, is the fact that we're at the halfway point of the season, and the trade deadline isn't for 2 months. So it feels like we should be talking about trades being imminent. And it's going to be a long damn time before we see some of these things come to fruition. We have a whole international tournament coming up.
And do we think the Flyers are going to trade more than maybe one player? They'll probably trade Risto, and that's probably it. And
it feels like
maybe
Risto
a second player. Maybe.
Yeah. But I think it's also for Farabee finding the right fit. Forster and Cates and Brink didn't look like anything when they weren't playing together, and now they're together and they're the best line. So
are you telling me he needs a center?
You know what, Steve? I haven't considered that about these underperforming wingers, but if there was like
It's just
someone
like
down the middle to help support him, perhaps he'd be better. But yeah,
it
it's
just
not.
sucks.
It's not Couturier where he is right now in Hathaway. It's just not. Like I made the point with Joe on the pod. It's like these are the three leftovers. You're just putting them together. So now that they're switching up the lines, I saw Frost was with. I think Farabee might be the healthy scratch tomorrow.
He might
Sal's
be
coming in and he was rotating in on the fourth line.
Yeah, that's the other big news today. But big news is that Lixell's going to be back in the lineup tomorrow, and mystery players coming out. But we're thinking it's Farabee. It looks like Thomas just dropped off. So thanks for joining us, Holmes.
Yeah.
Are we so confident that it wouldn't be Mishkov?
I'm not entirely confident. He didn't have a great
home
game against Dallas, but everybody was bad in that game too.
I know the belief is that like if it's a home game, they're going to keep him in. But like, if we know Torts is going to Torts, and like
and the thing is that I think the pace of play, the whole NHL schedule has been kicking his butt a little bit. But he also looked great in the Toronto game. So yeah, I don't know.
Weird.
But it's just the line rushes today. Like it was Charlie tweeting about Lixell/Farabee with Couturier and Hathaway. And
I mean,
yeah,
that's Charlie's just writing it on the wall there.
Yeah. So
the other question, by the way, and we kind of covered this, but I'm going to read it anyway because I appreciate everybody who did ask questions today. And look, I didn't promote this the greatest. I had a tough week. I had a lot going on, but Slancha. Royal 64 on Blue Sky asked if it is more important to get a passable goalie or passable center in the second half of the season. So, like, let's say the Flyers did want to at least make a decent go of it for the second half of the season and give them support. If you were going to get a passable player, one of those positions, goalie or center, which one would you want to go with?
Center.
It's center. It's not.
It's center because my reasoning is because if Sam Harrison can stay healthy, he actually is a passable goalie. That's the big if. The injuries are terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of like centers, would you guys be okay trading for a veteran with like 2 years on his deal? Like for a lack of a better name out there, like a Nazem Kadri type, where he's not what he once was, but he can play middle six. He plays a good two-way game. Torts would like him. Like, would you like someone like that to come in, give him Frost and another prospect or something?
I honestly wouldn't hate that. I
wouldn't hate it either. I'm with you, Quigs. Yeah. I saw Joe make a face.
Who did you say?
Nazem Kadri is like a guy who's out there on like the trade.
You got to do it ultra Canadian. Kadri. Nazem Kadri.
A 31-year-old with 6 years of term. I don't know.
I brought someone like him with like 2 or 3 years left. I didn't know his exact contract situation. What I want, and I know people hate this, is bring Claude home in the offseason. Please just bring Claude home. He's not a center, but he's.
I feel like if you get Claude now, it's just going to be more of the same of when he was here.
He'd be the best center this team's got.
Here's the thing: you want to replace that leadership from Scooty Lutz. You trade him out, Claude Giroux, and that's a huge upgrade at every skill.
Scott Lawton for Claude.
You want to talk about somebody who could actually keep pace with Matvei Michkov? Claude Giroux is your guy.
He
put Giroux, Couturier, and Michkov together. Slowest line out there, but they'll make some plays.
It'd be fun.
Fuck yeah,
that would be a fun line. I would love that.
Crange X in the chat said center. We could improve offense, but still lose with poor goaltending and get a higher pick.
Yes,
that is the big picture.
That's
right
the way. That is the way to do it. Like I feel like improve the offense, make the team fun. Let's watch some fun hockey. Let's watch some goals be scored, and then if we lose, that's fine. We can get a higher draft pick, and then, like I said, we could use that high draft pick or first round draft pick or whatever, you know what I mean? But like we could use that draft pick as possible ammunition to get an actual good player who's in the NHL now.
Yeah. And then you make Farabee better. You make all these wingers better for potential trades in the offseason. Like you increase the value from the zero that it's at right now.
Get a center, man. I swear, that is like the only thing that matters in my world.
How many centers do we need at this point? We need 3?
Yeah, because you got Coots, who's a center, but he's also
Coots is a fourth line center right now.
Yeah, like you got Coots, you got
Cates.
Cates is kind of a center.
Cates is a center.
You got Coots and Baby Coots. It's like a Bowser
and you got
and
Jet
Baby
in the system.
Yeah,
Jet is a center. I feel confident in that.
Yes.
So, all right. So here's another thing about Jet Lachenko. I'm really excited about Jet Lachenko. and I have high hopes for him. I feel like people are already starting to bank on him, like he's going to be the savior center. And dude, that is such a horrible way of looking at this, because like a bunch of people, I've already seen him online. They're like, dude, once we get Jet, like, oh my god, and it's just like, dude, like, no, like I don't think that is the correct thought process to have at this moment. I feel like he's going to come up and he's going to go through his growing pains, just like we're watching Mishkov right now. Like Mishkov started the year amazing, and now he's hit a wall, and that's what happens when you're a rookie. And I think the same thing will happen with Jet Lachenko. And one day, when he becomes like his, a finished product, then I think he could be a good player. But like, will he be a 1C? I don't know. I have no reason to believe that.
I need to be reading whatever comments you're reading, because all I ever see is Jeluchenko's a 4C, maybe a 3C on this team. So wherever they're saying,
Joe, are you just reading the flyby comments? That's what's going on.
I mean,
Joe does reference the flyby quite a bit.
do.
Joe is in the flyby a lot, and I appreciate it because I can't. I mean, listen, if you flybyers are in here, we love and appreciate you. I can't handle you. All right, y'all are too much for me. I will say I appreciate everybody who has joined today and has been in the chat over here. This was a lot of fun. I think I would love to do another happy hour in the future, especially once we get into like the tournament coming up, the Four Nations, and the trade deadline is going to be a big one. We're definitely going to do some live streaming with the trade deadline. That's going to be a lot of fun. But
oh baby,
yeah, I know Gilbs has to get out of here. I think we all have to just go enjoy our Friday nights at this point. But you guys are awesome, gentlemen. Let's start. I'll start with Ryan Gilbert and Joe, and then we'll go to Quigs. Where can people find you on the socials if they have any comments or feedback for you?
You can follow me on Twitter at rgilbertsop, or more likely on Blue Sky at ryangilbert.bsky.social.
Yep, you can find me at jfdmarini .bsky.social. It's the same thing on Twitter, but I am like never there anymore, so make it Blue Sky for anything important or relevant.
Find me at Ryan Quigs with a Z. I'm on Blue Sky on Twitter, but make it Blue Sky. Thank you.
What all the other guys said about Blue Sky, it's Flyperbole. Also, Esteban, if it's for hockey purposes, make it Flyperbole. Flyperbole on Instagram, Flyperbole on TikTok, all that fun stuff. Be sure to listen to these great gentlemen with their BSH podcast. They do a great job every week. Go check that out. Of course, you've got Flyperbole here every week as well. So thanks so much for listening, fam. We love and appreciate you all. And until next time, in the words of the great Gene Hart, good night and good hockey. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow. Wow.